Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about UK government back office software opportunity as well as looking at the discussion between build versus buy. Do note that this video is only for educational purpose only. I do own Palantir and may be biased in my view. Do not treat this as an investment advice. Always do your own due diligence. In the last video, we looked at the various US government contracts awarded to Palantir. Now we'll look at the potential deals from the UK government. As of end 2021, total government business only had a market share of about 2% in terms of total remaining value against the TAM quantified by management. There is more room to grow, especially given the geopolitical backdrop. Arnaldo recently flagged out on Twitter a new dedicated page for UK defense. This made me curious how much of the UK government market has Palantir penetrated. To answer this, we will look at the contract finder website published by the UK government. A search for Palantir gives us 11 awarded contracts, but none at opportunity or engagement stage. We can use this website to keep tabs on any potential new contracts coming up. I will cover the first two search results in this video. One is the 1.2 billion worth of back office software contracts that are potential business for Palantir. To be clear, these are not awarded contracts but are some carved out by the Crown Commercial Service that is open for tender by 31 suppliers including Palantir. In the second section, we will discuss on a case where a Foundry contract was not renewed, with reports attributing the reason to a move towards DIY systems. Given management view that DIY is the competitor to Palantir, we should definitely keep a lookout for such developments. In the next video, we will zoom in on the 9 contracts worth 43 million to see the use cases across UK government for Palantir. Keep a lookout for that video. I have spent lots of time to prepare this content, so I would really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel. As mentioned, this 1.2 billion was put up by the Crown Commercial Service and available for tender by 31 suppliers. For those not from UK, Crown Commercial Service centralizes procurement activities for the UK government to derive efficiency and savings by bulk purchase as a single buyer. This 1.2 billion contract is specifically for back office softwares that do things like human resourcing, financial reporting, procurement, and many more. The end users would be central government bodies as well as local authorities like police and fire and rescue. The period for tender is for 3 years ending in December 2024. So who are the competitors of Palantir for this notice, and how much has this been captured? These are some of the big names within the list of 31 suppliers supplying back office softwares. Oracle and SAP are traditional names in the enterprise software space like CRM, HCM, Human Capital, and ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, so it's not a surprise to see these big names here. Deloitte is a big 4 accounting firm, as we all know. For Fujitsu, they have been serving the UK government with IT solutions at both national and local level for 40 years, according to the website. For example, they actually help to detect fraud and error in tax credit claims. They also support police with details of registered vehicles and license holders' data. All of these functions sound like something that Palantir is able to take on, and Foundry is pretty much industry agnostic. But Palantir only has one contract of about 6 million out of the 1.2 billion opportunity. The question is, how much can Palantir further penetrate the back office software space within the UK government business? I think we can look at this question with two lenses. First is the product angle, and next is the sales aspect. For product, it will be a debate if the modularization is actually useful. Looking at contracts of SAP and Oracle, you find many of them out there, but most are actually of smaller average ticket size. This made me think if modularization is critical, not just in the commercial space, but also in the government business like in UK. We hear the analogy of Palantir as a toolbox that can solve many issues, not just the current problems one look to solve, but also future issues as well. But if one is only looking to solve just one particular issue, in other words, requiring a wrench and not a whole toolbox that costs higher, a full-fledged Foundry may not be able to sell well in this scenario. That's the reason for breaking down a thick product into smaller pieces for easy consumption. Now there's another perspective against modularization, and it was shared by YouTuber Cyberfam. He explained the tech side of things very well in layman terms. I have put his video link in the description, so do check it out. He was saying that breaking down into smaller parts actually diminish the value proposition of Palantir. They'll just become a mediocre product like everyone else, since the differentiator comes from what it can offer as a full platform. So these are two conflicting views. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. The second lens is sales. Building a great product has always been the company's priority over sales. Only in recent quarters we have heard focus on ramping up sales via aggressive hiring for the commercial sector. If Palantir wants to grow its UK government business, they will need a sales force as well, one that is familiar with bids for government contracts. Some may say, hey, isn't the focus is now on commercial business since the government business is at its tail end? In actual fact, I repeat again that the total government business is only about 2% of the TAM projected by management. This means there are still much more markets to be penetrated for Palantir, especially outside of US in terms of its government business. In a nutshell, I personally am confident that Palantir has one of the best products, but having a good go-to-market strategy and executing on sales growth is equally critical. Apart from defense contracts, I look forward to more wins in the back office space as well. Moving on, let's look at the news of Palantir losing an existing deal of 908k for the Department of Health and Social Care, DHSC. Palantir management has previously mentioned that building a system from scratch is the alternative to Foundry or Gotham. So it's important that we look at this example, even though the contract amount lost is quite small. This news was actually reported on CNBC in September 2021. It mentioned privacy concerns raised by campaigners against UK government usage of Palantir and seems to suggest that this is the reason for the contract to end. Initially, there was a confusion if Palantir will be dropped from NHS totally, but eventually the title of the article was actually revised for accuracy, as you can see on the screen. In a nutshell, there is only one 908k contract with Palantir that will be dropped off. DHSC will not be renewing that contract for its adult social care dashboard only. Palantir further clarified through TechTimes that their existing deal of 23 million with the NHS will still continue. In other words, only the add-on portion for the adult social care dashboard will no longer be Palantir. This is good news as the NHS contract is not only a significant chunk by deal amount, but also an important task in distributing supplies and vaccines to combat COVID. In other words, such a complex supply chain management still requires capabilities of Palantir to be executed. If you are still confused by the news reporting article so far, let's look at the summary below. This is about the discontinuation of the adult social care dashboard that used to be on Palantir. It helps to track hotspots of COVID cases across care homes and assess resource requirements of these facilities. DHSC will stop the 908k contract with Palantir, pay 100k to Mosaic to migrate to another system called Edge. It stands for Environment for Data Gathering and Engineering, a system built by UK defense company BAE System for DHSC. The question we should ask ourselves is whether Palantir can be replaced easily. The CNBC article mentioned that there is a move towards reducing the reliance on third-party softwares. Actually, what the Edge system used by DHSC is not exactly a DIY system. At least it is not one that is built from scratch by the internal staff of DHSC. It seems to be a solution developed by a third-party company called BAE System and handed over to the IT team of DHSC to run. As highlighted by Palantir COO, their main competition is from clients building their own systems. But if Foundry is at least 5 years ahead as claimed by management, building own system may not be an attractive solution, especially for complex tasks. I might not be in the IT field, so I rely on such news to infer the capabilities of Palantir solutions. For example, Foundry contract of 2 years for NHS is under 25 million, but is deploying much more complex and larger scale work in the vaccination program space. In comparison, another test and trace system that sounds simpler in task but costs 6x more at 155 million and still struggling to meet its intended objectives as claimed by this source in the Palantir earnings deck as of Q4 2021. All in all, we may infer that Palantir's proposition remains strong. In the next video, we'll look at the 9 UK contracts awarded to Palantir. It will be very exciting to look at those. Please subscribe and keep a lookout for the next video. Thanks so much for listening.